This tutorial is going to walk you through all the basic steps of setting up a BigCommerce store and launching it. Now, BigCommerce has a ton of tutorials and articles about how you can set up your store, but it can be sometimes confusing to figure out what order you should do things in and to know that you haven't missed any steps. So this tutorial is really just going to walk you through all the basic things you need to do to make sure that you have everything set up to take payments, to calculate shipping, and to actually have a functioning store so that you can launch quickly. And then you can, of course, go back and take advantage of a ton of other features that BigCommerce offers and install apps and do more work on your storefront. But this will just basically give you an overview of all the basic steps you need to do. So as you can see, I have my trial store that I've set up here. It's brand new. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my payment gateway, or at least start the application process. So as you can see, I clicked on store setup and then I'm going to click on payments. The reason that we're doing this first is because it can take a few days to up to a week to actually get approved for a payment gateway. So by doing this step first, we'll then save some time later, and while we're waiting to be approved, we can work on other things in our store. So your store will come with Braintree already installed. If you want to go ahead and use Braintree, I do recommend it. It doesn't have a monthly fee to use, so you just pay the transaction fees, unlike some of the other gateways which do charge you a monthly fee on top of that. So if you want to use Braintree, you'll just click this complete setup button here, and then you'll click connect with Braintree. And it's going to go ahead and give you the option to either log in with PayPal or to create a new account. So if you have a PayPal account, you can log in with that, or you can sign up with a new account. And once you start that process, Braintree will go through the approval process for you. You'll have to submit your bank account information, typically your social security number, things like that. And then once that's in progress, you'll get an email from Braintree telling you that you're in process and eventually that you've been approved. The next step is going to be configuring your store settings. So first we're going to go back out and we're going to go to our server settings and to our email and DNS records. Now, if you have a third-party email hosting account already set up, you can hold off on doing this until later. You can set up an external email hosting solution, or you can use G Suite if you already have an account with that. If you don't have third-party hosting, the easiest thing to do is to just use this forwarding option that BigCommerce provides. So you can decide what display address you want to use, and then you can forward it to your personal email address. So you can put in here either service or orders or hello or something along those lines, and then you can put your email address in here. The reason this is important is because you're going to be using this email address in the setup of the rest of your store, and so you want to be able to make sure that you know what that email is going to be up front. So it's not going to be at mynewstore3.mybigcommerce.com. It's going to be what your eventual domain is. So if you already know that your domain is going to be mynewstore.com, your email address is going to be hello@mynewstore.com. And so that's what we're going to use as we fill out some of the other areas. So once we've done that, we're going to back out of server settings and we're going to go to store setup and store settings. Now, we'll make it easier to work on your store if your store is out of maintenance mode. You can leave it in maintenance mode if you want for now, but eventually when we get to the step where we install our theme, we're going to want to be able to see the store a little bit easier, so I do at some point recommend taking it out of maintenance mode. No one's going to be able to find your store since it's on a temporary URL and no one knows it exists, so you don't need to worry about that. So you'll want to go through some of these basic settings, especially look at your physical dimension settings, make sure that those are appropriate for you. And then you can go ahead and click on display settings. Some of these should be fairly obvious whether or not you want to turn them on. I'll just highlight a few of them. But if you typically you're going to want to leave the quantity box on the add to cart panel, but if you sell unique items and there's only ever one of each one, you'll want to uncheck that box. Decide whether you want to have the wish list in your store. I usually recommend having it unless there's a reason not to. Maybe you sell products that are industrial and people aren't really going to add them to a wish list, so you could turn that off if you want. I typically recommend turning off product comparisons unless you're selling something that's like electronics or computers or something that has specs. In the category settings, I recommend changing the default setting to show products from the current category and its children. Basically, what that means is when someone clicks on a parent category, they're going to see all the products from that category's subcategories as well. And then down here, look at the product settings and decide which of these product information you want to show on your product page. You're always going to want to show the price. If you plan to use SKUs and those are something you want customers to see, you can leave that on. Otherwise, I typically will turn that off. You usually don't need to show the weight. If brands are important to you, you can leave that on. Otherwise, you can turn it off. If you're going to use reviews, I suggest leaving that on. And then I do suggest leaving on the showing the add to cart button on the category page. If you want to show the shipping cost on the product page, you can. Typically, I suggest leaving that off because you'll most likely be using store-wide shipping rules, which means it's not going to really provide the customer any important details there. So if we scroll up to the top again, go ahead and click on the date and time zone. Make sure this is set to the proper time zone for where you're located. Then go ahead and click on the URL structure. I suggest changing the product URLs to SEO optimized with the category. Then go ahead and click on security and privacy. Scroll down and make sure that the reCAPTCHA is checked. Then click on the miscellaneous tab at the top. If you're assuming you're going to be using product review emails, you'll want to have this first box checked so that these emails go out to customers asking them to review products they've purchased. Go ahead and click on this forward order invoices box and put in either your personal email address or that new email address we just configured in the email settings area. And then go ahead and click Save at the bottom. The last settings we're going to configure are the checkout settings. So go back out of Store Setup, click on Advanced Settings, and then Checkout. Under the Customer Account section, I suggest changing the default to customers are not required to have an account, but automatically create one after ordering. This will allow people to then log in and check their order status. Then under existing accounts, select the second option, or select the third option, I'm sorry, that says require existing accounts to sign in. So if someone's already created an account, this will require them to sign into their account in order to check out. Then you can decide if you want to enable some of these other options. The most common ones would be to allow customers to select multiple shipping addresses for an order. Just keep in mind that however you set up your shipping rules, they're only going to be charged for shipping once, but this can be good if you do sell something like gifts. Otherwise, you should be able to leave these remaining settings as is, unless you're going to want customers to accept terms and conditions, but we're going to leave that unchecked now because we'll need to have that terms and conditions page set up before we can enable that. So go ahead and click Save at the bottom. And that's it for all the settings. Next, we're going to set up our shipping rules and tax. So we're going to go ahead and click on Store Setup and then Shipping. Now this video is really for people who are US based stores, but you can just apply this to whatever country you live in if you are outside of the US. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to add your shipping address. This shipping address is going to be where your products ship from. So you're going to want to make sure that this is accurate, especially if you're planning on using real-time shipping quotes. Then go ahead and scroll down. If you're In most cases, if you're a US company, you're going to be shipping to the United States, and so you see that the US already has a zone set up. If you want to ship to another country or other countries, you can certainly do that by adding a shipping zone, and you would just click Add a Country Zone. For right now, I'm going to show you how to configure the United States, and you can always add other countries later. I do suggest starting with the United States only, just until you get your store up and running, and then you can always come back and add other countries later. So go ahead and click on Configure, and then we've got a couple different options here. What I would recommend to start off your store is to have a free shipping option and then to have a USPS option. The great thing about setting up USPS through BigCommerce is it only requires a free Indicia account. So to set that up, you'll click Connect, and then you'll fill out this information, choose a password, and you do have to add a credit card number, but you're not going to get billed because it's a free account. And then you'll complete that. And once you've done that, you'll have the ability to configure your USPS shipping rules and to basically pick which type of USPS shipping you want to offer. So you can have first class mail, priority mail, express. I just think USPS is the easiest to deal with. Most people are easily able to ship from the post office. Your other options would be to use FedEx or UPS. If you want to add those on, you can certainly do that, or if you want to use those in place of USPS. With either of those options, you'll need to have an online FedEx account or an online UPS account. And for UPS, you need to have already paid at least one invoice through your UPS account. So you have to have that up and running and in use before you can link it up to your BigCommerce store. Then we're going to scroll up to the top, and you can of course do flat rate or ship by weight or order value. Those are a little bit harder to figure out and map out. So I typically recommend, in addition to your USPS offerings, to then have free shipping over a certain order amount. So depending on the typical cost of your products, you can set this to something that you think might be appropriate. Probably the best way to do it is to think about the prices of all the products in your store. Think in your head what an average product might cost. So if one item on average may cost $50, then I would maybe set your shipping minimum to 75. That's going to encourage people to buy more than one item and try to drive up your average order size. If you're selling less expensive items and maybe your average price is 25, you may want to set it at 30. And then we're going to always select to use the discounted order subtotal. That means that it's calculating the free shipping threshold after someone has applied any coupons. And go ahead and check this box to make products with fixed shipping or free shipping not eligible. You may not be using fixed shipping or free shipping on the product level, but it's good to check it off just in case you ever do in the future. And then go ahead and click submit. So now we have our shipping all set up, and we're going to go over to tax. I do recommend using the Avalara automated tax. If you're going to do that, you would click on the setup. And then if you don't already have an Avalara account, you're going to click this link to create one here. You'll complete this form, and then you'll sign up. And as you can see up here, your annual subscription will include 5,000 transactions at no cost, and then they will start charging you. However, the 30 cents per transaction is really worth it because depending on what you're selling, the difference in a flat tax rate where you're maybe collecting 6% tax, but the customer actually owes 8% tax, that difference of 2% is likely going to be more than 30 cents. So at the end of the year or monthly, whenever you're submitting your tax, it's much better that you're capturing the actual tax rate so that you don't owe more tax than you've collected when you go to pay the state. So I think this 30 cents per transaction is actually well worth it. So once you've created your Avalara account, you'll enter this information here, and then you'll save it to, and once you've saved it, make sure when you come back to this screen that you actually enable it. So it'll be set up, but it won't be enabled, and you do have to click a button to actually enable it. If your state does have a flat tax and there are no local taxes, you can go ahead and use a manual tax. you would come in here, you're going to click in tax rates and zones, and then you're going to add a tax zone. You're going to say it's based on one or more states. Select the United States. Select the state that you're applying it to. And then go ahead and save. And then you'll want to add your tax rate. So whatever the tax rate might be, you'll put that in there, and then you can put in 0 for the rest unless your state requires you to tax the cost of shipping, in which case you'll put that same tax in there for the shipping cost, and then you'll save. Next, we're going to go ahead and set up our initial categories and products. So we're going to click into products, and then we're going to go into product categories. You'll see there are some categories already set up here. You can delete those by clicking at the top and then deleting them. And then we're going to go, and then you're going to create your own categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of them except for Shop All for right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and rename Shop All to one of my primary categories. Actually, let's do tops. And then I'm going to go ahead and create some additional categories. And you'll see when you're creating one, you can click save and add another, and that'll save you some time. Okay, so I've added my categories. I'm going to put them in the order that I want just by dragging and dropping. And you can see because I renamed tops, it still has those 13 sample categories in there. Now, if at some point I want to create subcategories down the road after I add more products, I can just come in here, create a new category, and then come down here and say I want that to be a subcategory of tops. And I can create another one. And then I can open this up and I can see those two subcategories. So now that I've created my basic categories, I'm going to come back out and click on View under Products. So we can see there's a whole bunch of products in here. To create a product, it's very easy. You're just going to click Add. I'm going to put my product name. I don't have SKUs for my products, so I'm just going to leave that blank. Add my price. The weight is required, and if you are going to be using the USPS real-time shipping rules, you're going to want to enter that in. So I'm going to put in 1 pound for that. And then this is a t-shirt, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the t-shirt category. I'm going to add my description. I always think it's good to write a couple of sentences and then include some bullet points for people who like to scan. You may be getting product descriptions from your vendor, you may be writing them yourself, whichever way you're doing it. This text editor gives you some options for how you can format that text. Then you'll come down here and you'll add your images and video. You can upload them from your computer, or if you're pulling them from a distributor site, you can add them from a URL. And then once you have some images in here, you can drag and drop them in the order that you'd like them to appear. If you have a UPC, you may want to add that for this product. If not, you can skip all that. Down here, if you do want to show that the product's on sale or that it has an MSRP, which is higher than 20, maybe I want to show that it's actually 24, but I sell it for 20. So I can put that in the MSRP. If I wanted to add bulk pricing, so I wanted to give people a discount if they were buying more than one, I could certainly set that up. That doesn't really apply to these products, and most people probably won't use those. I do want to track inventory, and I'm going to be adding sizes for this t-shirt, so I want to track that inventory on the variant level. If it was just a standalone product, I'd leave it at on the product level and I'd put in my stock level. Now if I put in 2 here for low stock, it means the store will notify me when I hit 2, so that's a good feature if you're monitoring your stock closely and you need to be able to reorder when things get low. I'm going to change that back to the variant level, and then I'm going to add my variants here. So you can see I'm going to add a variant option. I'm going to go with size, and these sizes are fine with me for right now. I can also use a swatch or a rectangle list. Maybe I'll use a rectangle list instead of a drop down. And I'm going to change these to S, M, and L. I think the rectangle boxes look better when you have just single letters or small short words, or if they're all pretty much the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If this product also came in multiple colors, I could add another variant option. So I could maybe add something for color, and I could add a swatch and say, hey, I want it to be a single color swatch, and then I can click in here and pick my colors so that it actually shows the different colors of the swatches. But I don't need color for this because it's a white t-shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and save those variants. And you'll see that they've been filled in here. If I did need to charge more for maybe, let's say, the large, I could go ahead and add a different price there, but that doesn't apply here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I don't have any modifier options, so I'm going to skip that. I really don't need to add any of these fields, but all of those things are optional and you can use those if you want. In my BigCommerce control panel training course, I do go into much more detail about this. If I wanted to set a maximum purchase or a minimum purchase, I could do that. Or if I wanted to make this product a pre-order, that's also an option. And then I'm basically down to the bottom, so I can go ahead and save my item and go back to view products. So you can see I've got this product set. I didn't add any inventory, but that's okay because I can add my inventory here by just expanding it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my inventory in. And you'll see now this little bar that tracks the inventory is green because everything's full. If I put in a low stock level, this will eventually turn orange as the stock gets low. Okay, so I'm going to do this process for all the products that I need to add. That process may take you some time. You also have the option of bulk importing products, and I'll include a link to that bulk import instructions tutorial on the BigCommerce website with this download. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my web pages. I'm going to go ahead and click on Storefront and then Web Pages. Web pages are content pages that essentially just provide static text. They can include images as well, but typically they're going to be policies and just general content pages. So you'll see your store comes with a few. It comes with shipping and returns, contact us, and blog. Let's click on Contact Us. I always suggest changing this text so it's a little more personal to you. Okay, And then down here, we're going to put in that email address. And choose which fields you want to show. I suggest just email address, question and comment, and full name. If you want to include phone number, you can, but in most cases, the more fields you have, the less likely someone's going to fill it out. And these 3 fields, every customer is going to understand why you need that information. So then you can go ahead and save that. Then we're going to click on our shipping and returns policy. Now that we've already set up our shipping rules, you should know what your shipping rules are and you should be able to describe them. I do recommend sort of changing this page around and putting the shipping content first at the top. They give you some default text. You're definitely going to want to customize this to meet your needs. So what I suggest doing is deleting all of this and then putting your shipping policy first. And basically what you want to tell people is how you ship, what kind of shipping options you provide them, how much those shipping charges are going to cost, whether they're based on the weight of the product and the dimensions, like your real-time USPS quotes, and then definitely let them know if you offer free shipping and what that minimum is for free shipping. And then I also think it's important to let people know about how long it takes for you to ship an item. So we typically ship items within 1 to 2 business days from receipt of your order. That helps people calculate about when they're going to receive their order. And then you're going to do your, and then you're going to put in your return section. In your return section, you want to explain when you take returns, for what reasons you take returns, and then what happens when someone does return something. Do they get a full refund? Do they get store credit? Can they ask for an exchange? All that kind of information is important to put in here. You can also include information about cancellations if you do accept order cancellations and how quickly someone needs to contact you to cancel before you've shipped the order. So once you've entered in that information, you'll go ahead and save it. And then you're going to want to create a couple more web pages. So the new ones you're going to want to create are going to be either an about us or an our story or something along those lines. You want to tell people a little bit about yourself, about the company, maybe why you started it, what your expertise, your background is in what you're selling, so that it just gives them a little more confidence that you're a solid store, that you're trustworthy. A lot of times people like to read the background of the founder of a store. If you have a background that maybe inspired you to start this business, people like to see that. So I always recommend creating an About Us page. And then you're also at a minimum going to need a privacy policy. And the privacy policy is going to explain to people on your store what information you collect about them, how you use that information, and who you share it with. This is required by law in most states, and it's also required by Google. So if you ever want to get any good rankings in the search engines, you definitely want to make sure you have a privacy policy. If you don't have one or you don't have access to a lawyer who can write one for you, I suggest taking a look at my policies online course so you can set up a privacy policy using Termageddon. Okay, so now I have all my pages created. I'm going to go ahead and put these in a different order. I always suggest putting the privacy policy at the end since it's probably least likely to be clicked on, and putting About Us at the top. Now if you want to use the blog, you certainly can. You can go ahead and click on blog, and then you'll see in here there's a sort of a sample blog post. If you're not planning on using the blog, I suggest turning it off. Or if you are planning on using it but haven't written any posts yet, I would go ahead and delete this sample post so that it's not on your site. Next, we're going to go and install your theme and do a little bit of basic customization. So we're going to click on My Themes under Storefront. Now your store is going to have come with Cornerstone Lite. If you don't plan to invest a bunch of time customizing your theme or hiring a BigCommerce partner to create a custom theme for you, I do not recommend using Cornerstone. If you look at your store, you'll see Cornerstone is extremely basic. There's not much design here, and it really just doesn't look that great unless you invest, like I said, quite a bit of time really making it look professional. So what I do suggest is installing another theme and going to the theme marketplace. You have a bunch of options for different themes. If you want to pay for a theme, you certainly can. There are plenty of more high-end themes that have some really nice features built in. They're typically anywhere between $150 and $250. Or if you want a free theme, there are a couple of free themes that I think are good. In terms of the free themes that I would recommend, I'd recommend either Roots or Lifestyle. Lifestyle is better if you have a small store. Roots is going to be better if you have a lot of categories. And Vault isn't that bad either. If you do have a lot of categories, Vault does have a drop down that includes all your categories so it can expand a little bit better and display more categories. I'm going to go ahead and go with Lifestyle for right now. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to add that theme to my store and then apply it. Now, if you have a logo, you're going to go ahead and click on Logo in the left nav, and then click Upload a custom image to use as your logo and upload it from your computer. If you don't have a logo and you want a quick and easy way to make one, I suggest using Canva. You can use a free Canva account and you can create an image, a logo image, and I suggest making it these exact dimensions as the theme calls for. So if you were going to do that, you would make it 150 by 34 in Canva. That's what you'll set your image size as, and then you can put your text in there, even if it's just stylized text using a fun font that looks a little nicer than just having basic text. If not, you can just enter your text below to display as your logo, and then you can come down here and put your text in. And you can choose whatever color you want it to be. If I highlight it, and maybe I want to make it all caps. Looks a little better. And I'm just going to leave it black actually. And then I'm going to go ahead and save. So now if I go ahead and view my store, we can see what it looks like. And I made my logo black, and there's a black background up here so you can't really see it, but we can see everything that's up here at the top. And we can see how the theme looks by default. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to click on My Themes. And then I'm going to click the Customize button and do some basic customization. So in the theme customizer, you're going to click on this little palette for the theme styles. And then we're going to go ahead and set some of our settings. So we can pick the primary color, we can pick some different backgrounds. I'm going to go ahead and go right to the header and footer and change the background color so that I can see my logo. And I'm going to go ahead and make it white, which is great, except now I can't see everything else. So now I'm going to go ahead and change the text color for all my other things. I'm going to make the icons black or very dark gray and then hover with black. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to change Shop All to Shop It Now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm only going to show my categories up here at the top. So you can see I have this choice whether I want to show just categories, just pages, or both. And I really don't need my pages to be showing up there at the top, so I'm going to go ahead and just choose that option. And then if I want to add my logo to the footer or include my email in the footer, I can do that. And then I can see how my footer is going to look as well. I do want to turn off the Powered by BigCommerce and the Powered by PSD Center. I really don't need to give them credit in my store. And then if I scroll down and I look at the footer, I'm going to go ahead and change everything to the opposite. So I'm going to make it a very dark gray and then change all the links and everything to white. I don't need to show brands, and I'm not planning on accepting Google Pay, so I can go ahead and turn that off. So we can see it's already starting to come together, and I can make some other choices. I should probably change the colors of my buttons maybe. Actually, that in this theme I think is the theme primary color. So maybe I want to have a little pop of color, so I'll change that to that kind of pinkish red color. There we go. And I can adjust more information about my theme in these different settings. So you can go through whichever theme you're using and you can make those choices. Each theme is going to have different options. And then when I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And if I come look at my store and refresh, looks like it did not save my setting for the header. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay too with the caching, so we'll try refreshing again and see if it's caught up. There we go. Okay, so you can see because my tops category has some subcategories, they show there. Here are all my other categories. And we can see the changes I made to my footer also took. So you get the idea. You can play around with that. You can also use Page Builder to drag and drop widgets. So maybe I want to drag an image or a layout down here. I can certainly do that as well using the widgets area. I'll have more information about that in my Page Builder tutorial, so look out for that as well. And then when you're done customizing your theme, you can go ahead and click on the B in the upper left and it'll take you back into the control panel. One other thing I want to do just to finish up my store design is I'm going to add my social media links if I have them. So you just click on that and then I can add my Facebook page or my Twitter account or my Pinterest or Instagram, whatever I want, and I can change the orders as well. So you would just put the URL to your Facebook page or your Pinterest page in those links and then save. And if you're not planning on using social media, all the themes give you the ability to turn off the social media icons so you don't have that heading in your footer with no icons in them. So at this point, we're almost complete with our store. We're almost done setting everything up. So we've only got a few last things to do. So one thing you can do is you can install some apps. There are quite a few apps that enhance your store and also provide additional functionality. Adding apps is completely optional, but there are a few that I do recommend just for every store. One of those would be to have an email marketing provider set up. So whether that's MailChimp or Klaviyo or Constant Contact, you would come to the apps area and you would be able to set up, find the corresponding app to that email marketing provider. So here's the MailChimp one you'll see. And that's definitely something good to do just to give yourself the opportunity to use email marketing down the road to increase sales. And you will need to set up an account with MailChimp, Klaviyo, or Constant Contact, or whatever email marketing app you're planning on using. You'll have to do that first before you can connect the app. But if you come into the apps area, you'll see that there are a lot of choices of different apps that you may want to install. One thing to keep in mind with apps is they do run on your store and they are going to install some scripts, and those scripts do take time to load. So if you are going to test out apps, by all means do and see how they work and if they work well for your store. But if you decide not to use them, then I just definitely recommend uninstalling them so that they don't keep loading on your page and slow down your website. One of the last few things we need to do is finalize our payment gateway. So if you've now been approved for your payment gateway, you'd come back into the payments area and you would go ahead and find your payment gateway and you'd go ahead and set it up. So if you're using authorize.net, you would just click the setup button and then it's going to give you instructions on how to get that hooked up. With Braintree, if once you're approved, it'll just stay as a tab up here at the top and you don't need to do anything else. Once you've applied through here, it should just be automatically connected and you'll be good to go. If you do want to add any additional payment methods, such as digital wallets like Apple Pay or Amazon Pay, and you have accounts for those already set up, you can of course add those. And if you had a physical retail store, you could add maybe Pay in Store if you want to set that up. You have quite a few options, but once you're approved for one payment gateway, that's really all you need to launch your store. The last thing we're going to do before launch is we're going to do some testing. So we're going to pretend we're a customer. We're going to open up our store and we're going to click through and just pretend like we're shopping. Okay, so there's no products in there. If you do come across a category with no products in it, maybe you set up a category you thought you were going to use and there's no products because you decided not to use it in the end, or you don't have products for that category yet, I recommend turning it off in the back end so that you don't have empty categories. So we can see the t-shirt that I put in here. Maybe we want to click on it and just make sure that everything's in there and I've got my description. And then maybe I want to click on my pages just to make sure that they all have content on them. I didn't fill in the content, but you'll want to make sure that all these pages have the text that you added and that you don't have any empty pages. Check everything to make sure in your footer, if I had added my social media links, I want to make sure that they're showing up there and click on them and make sure they go to the right place. And then most importantly, I want to actually place a test order. So I'm going to go ahead and add this product to my cart. In retrospect, I would not have selected this red color as the theme color because it shows up way too much. So for this theme, just as a future note, don't select a bright color as your theme color because it looks a little weird. But I can go ahead and test and make sure that my shipping estimates work, and as we can see, it doesn't actually work because I haven't actually set up my USPS shipping in the back end. You would have, but if I change this to hit my $50 threshold, I should at least get free shipping, and I do. So I can go ahead and then go into my checkout, and I can complete the checkout as if I'm a customer and just make sure that everything works properly. Get all the way to the order confirmation page, and then once that order's come through, you'll want to make sure that it shows up in your orders area. I didn't place the order, but you would expect to see the order here. And then you'll want to make sure that you check your bank account maybe the next day and see if the money has come through to your bank account. And if it has, then you can come through in here and you can issue yourself a refund and then make sure that that refund goes through. So basically now you've tested all the functionality of your website and you know that everything functions properly, that people will be able to place an order, the shipping quotes work, the payment gateway works, and you're essentially all ready to launch at this point. So now that we've done our testing, the last thing to do is to actually assign the domain name to our store. To do that, we're going to go ahead and come down to server settings and then click on domain name. Now I have not upgraded my store. You will need to upgrade your store to a paid plan before you can add your domain. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead and come back here and select a plan. And you can start off with the lowest plan if you want, or if you feel like you're going to need more features, you can start with a higher plan. It's completely up to you. And then once you've upgraded to a paid plan, you'll come in here, You may need to update your primary contact because typically when you set up your store, BigCommerce only asks you for a few pieces of information. So you'll want to come in here, complete that information if you haven't done it already, and then you can add your domain name. And once you've added your domain name, it'll take anywhere from 2 hours to maybe 24 hours for that domain change to happen. And essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to add your domain here in BigCommerce, and then BigCommerce will give you 3 name server addresses, and you'll take those name server addresses and you'll add those to the to your domain wherever your domain is registered. And there are some pretty good tutorials, and I'll include a link to that from the BigCommerce website about how to complete that process for changing your domain name. And then you'll just want to check every couple of hours to see if when you go to your store and you go to your domain, if it's actually coming up on your actual domain. And if it is, then you're actually launched and you're ready to start selling. So what I recommend doing is once you launch is sending out an email to friends and family, letting them know about your new store and inviting them to come shop. And one thing that you can do just to make sure that they are incented to come and help you is you could set up a coupon. So if we go into marketing and click on promotions, we could go ahead and create a coupon for our friends. So I'm going to go ahead and give my friends and family 10% off as an incentive for them to come and help me test out my store. And I'm going to put an end date of next week. And then I've saved it. And now I'm just going to send out an email address to all my friends and family, give them this coupon, tell them I've launched, and ask them to help me test the store and see if they find anything that needs to be changed. And once I've gone through that week of testing and, getting feedback from my friends and family, I can go ahead and start marketing the store. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into marketing, so how you choose to market will be different based on your store and your budget. But I hope that this quick setup guide and tutorial has helped you in just knowing exactly which things you need to do to get launched. There are, of course, a lot of other things in BigCommerce you can set up. Some additional things you might want to do would be to add new channels to be able to sell maybe on Facebook or eBay or Amazon. You can also install Google Analytics, which is a third-party but free analytics tool that'll help you better manage your performance and your store's, conversion rate and where your traffic is coming from. And there's lots more things you can do here in BigCommerce. If you're looking for more detail on all the different functionality that's available in the control panel, I definitely recommend checking out my Mastering the BigCommerce Control Panel online course, which will go much more into depth in all the different areas of the control panel.